Now, we're going to announce the last panel of today. And it's rightfully called the future of custodianship. Translate that to why not to leave your money on FTX. Okay? You're going to learn a lot about visionaries in that space. The panel will be led by Irene Wu, venture partner at Bain Capital. Irene, you with us? Irene, you name it. Welcome. Next up is Lucian from Multiverse. Then we have Charles from Ledger. And world-famous Stani. Enjoy, folks.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you all for coming. And I am so happy to be moderating today's panel. I'm lucky to call a few of these people friends and also to have a really unique gathering of founders here together on the stage. Before I dive in, why don't we hear a brief intro from each of you? Go ahead.
Definitely. Thanks again. Thanks, X Ventures, first for organizing this amazing event. Paris is lovely, and especially proof of talk. Yeah, back to the intro. My name is Lucian Mincu. I'm one of the technical co-founders of MultiversX. Previously known as Elrond, have been working with my team on several very advanced problems or difficult problems, such as sharding, and have solved that, and we're live on mainnet with zero downtime since 2020. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Guillemet. I'm CTO at Ledger. Ledger is based in Paris, so very happy to be here in Paris. My background is cryptography and security. Those are topics I'm interested in since I'm 12, I guess. And today I'm CTO at Ledger, so I'm taking care of the technology in general at Ledger.
Hey, I'm Stani, so I'm the founder and CEO of Avara. And if someone doesn't know, so Avara is basically a Web3 company that has built also the AAVE protocol, which is one of the leading DeFi protocols, Lens, a decentralized social protocol, and also Family, I would say kind of like a user-friendly, delightful wallet to use. And been building also for maybe 8 years now in this space, and happy to be here.
And a brief introduction of myself. My name's Irene. I'm a venture partner at Bain Capital Crypto. Most recently, I was head of strategy at AAVE Labs, which is the leading omni-chain interoperability protocol, and have spent my career doing research within machine learning and anti-surveillance technology. What makes this panel so special, and a lot of reverence from my side for these three, is that all three of these founders have built projects which forever altered the trajectory of our industry by being early movers, and also, and more importantly, building products that have endured, have lasted past multiple cycles. And so one question I wanted to ask each of them was, you can attest now to learnings from over 5 years of building each of your particular projects. What is a hard-won lesson from that experience? And when I say hard-won, I mean you've been in the war rooms, you've hired, you have tried to inspire visions for your teams through bear cycles. Perhaps a very tactical learning would be interesting to hear. Whoever would like to go first.
Yes, this is a long journey, and this is not a straight road. You have bumps on the road, and you are at different cycles, and you have to manage. There's a strong period where everyone is bullish, and there's difficult period where the market is bearish, and this is also the same thing in the teams. The mood is a little bit affected by the market. But at the end, from my standpoint, I feel it's more difficult to manage the bull market because everyone is very bullish. It's very difficult to keep the team focused. You have like 1,000 new ideas a day, but you don't have 1,000 new people to execute these ideas a day. So yeah, you really have to set a strong direction, to motivate the team, to explain what the North Star is, and to remain focused. For me, the main learning is really focus.
Can I ask, as a quick follow-up question, in the history of Ledger, was there a particular decision you guys made as a team that you think is incredibly important to where you are today, or what's next?
Yeah, there are many. One of them is really to say that we never compromise with security. And I think this is something very clear for the teams everywhere at Ledger. And as soon as there is a decision to take, security is on the table. So we don't compromise with security. And another decision which makes us very successful is when we decided to create platforms. We sell product to our users, but the thing is the space is moving very fast. There are plenty of new blockchain every day, plenty of new protocols. Some of them are very successful, some others are not. But when they appear, you don't know yet. You can bet, but you don't know yet. And it's very difficult to support all this protocol, all this blockchain with your teams. So at some point, we decided to create a platform, to create an open platform, allowing developers to build on top of Ledger. That is the case with our devices. I brought our new device here. This is the Ledger Stacks, and this is, again, an open platform. You can build your own application, your MultiversX application, your Bitcoin application, and so on. And then, as a user, then you can simply use this application. And this is also the case with our front end, with our Ledger Live and Ledger Vault. And I think this is really something that was paramount for the success of Ledger, because it allowed us to support so many protocols in a secure manner.
I'll definitely be asking more about stacks. And what you touched upon there is strategy for any business or protocol, and I can certainly relate from my time at Layer 0, is about massive trade-offs and making those decisions. Stani, you are the original inventor and founder of AAVE, which has gone on to be a real staple and household name for any DeFi stack. But then you went on to launch Lens and make a few acquisitions. I'm curious, is there a hard-won lesson that you can think of that you would parlay to young founders who want to build something or a family of companies that endures?
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of multitasking. But to your point about the focus, I do think that finding something really valuable, important, and building and keeping kind of like vision is really important. I kind of, in my point, and in my, like, I will not say like transition, but just thinking about like solving different problems in the space and how you could use on-chain for like a wider user base. What I feel really valuable is that some of these problems that you want to solve, there needs to be some sort of deeper kind of calling or a passion. And the reason that you're actually doing it, because as you mentioned, it is a long game. So you might be building in the space for 5 or even 8 years without kind of like a massive traction that you will like experience in more of like the consumer side and getting a bunch of users and faster feedback loops. So they can be very long. So kind of like the focus and resilience is important, and focusing on the problems that really you want to be solving. And for me, it's a lot to do about finance and access to financial opportunity, but also being able to own these different kinds of primitives that aren't necessarily financial. And that's where social comes into place. Everyone has social capital. It's the content we create and connections we make, events like this, or even more today, actually online, of course. So having that really, not just the focus, but passion of what you want to solve, because it's going to be a long game. And having a resiliency is important from this perspective, and I would say also listening to the users. I feel like we built in the space quite a lot by, reading and exploring the social layer, which is like everyone here, online as well, on Twitter, on Lens, on Farcaster, and essentially like thinking what people want. but we spend less time of actually thinking what the users want and what they're actually doing. And we're really afraid to also like collect some of that data and analyzing what they're actually doing. And one of the reasons AAVE is so successful is that we try to like focus on the users and what they're doing and growing like the main user type. And that has been really helpful. And then inclusive community as well. So expanding to new networks and going where the new user bases are as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely be asking about a big partnership you announced in regards to new networks. If I can ask, is there a particular insight you remember you guys discovered on-chain with metrics that informed a new feature or a product launch within Avara companies?
I think more of like the, I do say there is, well, obviously like Go is an example. We see that people are supplying stable coin and there's liquidity crunches, especially when there is upcycle, meaning that the interest rates are going super high and you can't really do anything about it because that's the market-driven behavior. And then things like Go help actually in a way that it's a governance way of controlling and providing interest rate markets that are more reliable. So that's one of the things. But also we look into the activity, like what people want to do. And it seems that users want to do a lot of things in the same place. Like that's a common finding. And that's why like AAVE interface has things like collateral swaps, depth swaps, and all these interesting additional features that aren't necessarily part of the core like liquidity, borrowing, yielding behavior, but are so good features that it makes the whole product
within the same UI.
Within the same UI, more appealing.
Yeah.
That has been really valuable learning. Yeah.
That's great. And then in regards to MultiversX.
Sure. Maybe just to go back and double click on the first question. Perhaps one of the most important lessons for us was always think that is day one, right? So we have a saying every day, good morning, regardless of what time of the day it is, having the high energy, high focus, and also saying and having the hunger and discipline of day one. If you remember, or if you don't know what comes after day one, is day two and you die, right? So basically, especially regardless of how small or how big you get, I think this is one of the disciplines that every organization should strive for, build for, regardless of the industry. Without that, without this kind of hunger, I think everything is it's just a matter of time until you get to the day two, right? Now, going back to the product part, I do believe that especially the market cycles are extremely important for us, especially as builders, to use that time and build the infrastructure that will keep up and hold the next 1 billion users. Regardless how much we talk and we want to have the 1 billion users on-chain and spend and do activities, I think each of us on all three layers will still have a lot of work to do from the block space and incorporating all those transactions, then from signing and keeping 1 billion users secure from worldwide, from their entire perspective, regardless where they come from, and then also keeping the funds on-chain activity with lending and so forth secure. That's going to be a challenge that we still need to focus, as I said, like day one, right? So I think especially for that, I'm very, very excited to see that regardless of the market or the time of the market, there are still founders pushing full speed ahead, right?
I noticed that over the last few months, MultiversX has been focusing more on a thesis around sovereign chains and this idea of next-gen applications. What in this context is possible with a next-gen application? Define that for us.
Sure. Maybe just to set the context is, we had, I think, a discussion 1 hour ago, a very long discussion about the general thesis about sharding and what does it bring and how does it work. For those who don't know or don't remember, sharding and proof of stake were the two initial features of Ethereum roadmap. until right now, the proof of stake has, sharding and proof of stake has been delivered. It's still a questionable thing how it and at which time it will be implemented on the broader ecosystem, such as Ethereum and so forth. However, we continued and worked with the Ethereum Foundation, with Prismatic Labs back in 2017, especially on the sharding part, right? And then while doing that and building that, actually, we ended up, the mainnet had ended up being one of the first chains that implements full state sharding in the space since 2020. Crazy, I would say, with zero downtime, by the way. And then while doing that, we actually learned to run multiple chains underneath the same architecture as an invisible layer. And then while doing that, actually, we rebuilt the stack, the node code base or the chain code base into an application stack where you could basically spin up your own chain running the engine that we have built for the last 6 years in a matter of seconds and have extremely powerful capabilities, such as, for example, block time of 1 second, finality relative to maybe two blocks, upwards scalability of tens of thousands of transactions, and multiple execution engines such as EVM compatibility or EVM with a different consensus model, which is not directly related to, for example, just posting transactions to Ethereum mainnet, or maybe having Solana VM, or Space VM, also all combining into a new modular stack that actually gives you full scale. Like, maybe just to sum it up, I see like 3 major pillars. Like, one, they're app chain specific, app chain specific, similar to maybe DYDX, which are very custom in their logic and optimized for their own logic. Then there's the second mass scale, like L2's thesis for any kind of mass consumer, I would say, blockchains. And then there's also for enterprises, which where I'm literally excited about, where you don't need to rely on any L1. You have full sovereignty, full compatibility, or customization on your own technical stack. I hope that covers.
No, it's very helpful. If there was a wish list sovereign chain that you'd like to see built, or a next gen application, what is that one thing you want a founder to build?
Very hard to limit, but there's one thing that I'm very excited about. So for our ecosystem, for example, laying down, like, non-being EVM compatible was kind of a pain in the ass for last 7 years, and everybody wished that. So with the new technical or app chain stack, we're finally having the opportunity to fund and back this kind of new app chain thesis that are contributing to the general ecosystem stack, where, for example, just to give a sense, this kind of new chain that I'm talking about is going to, I think, next week gonna launch the testnet, and they are having crazy performance, like tens of thousands, or I think thousands of transactions or EVM operations per second with the block time of 1 second, right? So that's pretty much more than, and contributing to the overall broader ecosystem than only one specific ecosystem, like MultiversX, right?
Yeah, it's really exciting to see this, because if you compare to the last cycle, we were in a very different situation. In the last cycle, we started to see a couple of applications on chain, and as soon as you have like a small application doing nothing complex, such as OpenSea, was not very big, it completely broke Ethereum, simply because the blockchain were not scalable. And what happened in the meantime is that a lot of teams, including yours, have worked on solving this problem. And now we kind of fixed this scalability challenge, and we have plenty of very cheap block space, and not so many applications. And AAVE is one of them, a very successful one. And we were talking about that just before. They are talking about using the app on different environments. So now we are in the opposite situation, where we have more infrastructure and not that much application.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, I remember Layer 0 had just gone on mainnet, and I had to beg people to want to talk with us about building on multiple chains. And now with new categories of infrastructure built, it's very possible for protocols like AAVE to, for example, launch their own chain for their product. And so, Stani, to you, I've watched AAVE become of our companies. You guys have made a few strategic acquisitions, which I think is a special and savvy move in the space. And I'd love to hear a little bit of how you guys reached those decisions. But then also you announced during ETH Berlin, or I believe the week before, a partnership with ZK Sync, in which there will be a network launched. I would love to hear more about what informed those decisions and also where you see AAVE as the name, stay, lend, and borrow fitting into the new vision for Avara.
Yeah, it's we have a quite an interesting story because we started building on Ethereum. So even before AAVE, our first protocol, ETHLend, is short from Ethereum lending. So we always were thinking about Ethereum is kind of like the place where you will have a lot of this innovation. And maybe also because it was one of the first programmable environments with the EVM. And I think at some point at AAVE we realized that you have all these different networks and communities, and they're just in some ways ways to expand user bases. And I think back in a few years, it was kind of some people in our small Ethereum bubble basically thought about that if you go and expand to these different networks, it's kind of like
defecting.
Exactly,
yeah.
And the way we saw it a little bit different. Like we saw that there's actual users that you can go and acquire relatively easily because there is no competition, or maybe there's some native protocols there that don't have the same functionality or brand value. And essentially one thing we focused very early is to have a cross-chain governance function. And once we had that, essentially we could deploy on any VM and expand and simply govern all those different deployments in one network, like for example Ethereum. So for us that was really we weren't always thinking about sticking in one environment. We see networks also as distributions and also user bases. And the L2 development has been fascinating because as I was thinking as well that things will move with sharding down the line, and it makes total sense. The same as for example CPUs, they don't grow in terms of a single CPU. They have multiple cores, so kind of a scale horizontally. So sharding makes a lot of sense. And with L2s, that gave a lot of cheap block space as well. And what we're thinking, for example, from AAVE's perspective, is that the AAVE protocol could be anywhere where you want to have a financial layer, and not necessarily every single blockchain needs that. They might have special purpose use cases, but it has a financial layer. AAVE should be there. In terms of lens, what we're trying to figure out is that how we can actually get this type of a technology in the transaction scale where the cost will not become an issue. And compared to financial transactions, social transactions need less security. So we're talking about registering your, let's say, follower graph, registering your identity, and those kind of things, and maybe micropayments as an example. So based on our research, one interesting solution for us was to use Validium, essentially a solution where you have an L2, but at the same time you don't use Ethereum as a data availability and you use something else instead, and that drastically reduces the cost. And with ZK Sync, we basically are able to do that. And also I'm very excited about the ZK technologies as well in general, because the progress has been just amazing. 2 years ago, I would never see that ZKs will be progressing so much as they are, for example, now. And down the line, we will see more and more EVM compatibility down the line as well. So I personally think that in a couple of years, we probably won't see any more much of optimistic rollups, and they actually will go towards the ZK path or even become L1s, to be honest.
Sovereign chains.
Well, exactly. For example, if you think about the size of the AAVE protocol today, it's roughly 20 billion of net deposits. It could run completely as a sovereign chain, and it will be in par with, I don't know, maybe Tron will be bigger than that. So it brings an interesting question about like where you then create your hub as a community.
So it's almost 5 years since the invention of ETHLend, or maybe past 5 years if you recall the exact anniversary.
Even, yeah, or even if, I think it was like 2016, I started to work on that, so 7-8 years or even.
So we're almost at a decade of AAVE. You guys are launching your own network. Could you just concisely define for us or share what is the renewed vision for Avara companies?
Yeah, I mean, overall, we build people-powered internet, which we think that the existing internet, probably the same reason we all are here, is that it's quite unbalanced. So we have 5, 6 big companies that are basically getting and extracting most of the value. And what we can do with the blockchain and these decentralized technologies is that we can redistribute the value and add guarantees where users actually can be part of the value feedback loop. And essentially, the way we think about it is that if well-governed, internet can become a place where all these benefits are more fair, and we have open spaces as well. Open spaces to access to financial opportunity, open spaces to create ideas and discuss. And to get there, obviously, we have to be ready for the consumer side of things. So it's not enough today anymore to build infrastructure. Everyone is doing that. It's important to actually build a really good experience and really good design. And that's something that where, for example, the family acquisition came into place, where they were like obsessed for creating like a really delightful experience. And also account abstraction is going towards that direction, gasless, signless transactions. So all this blockchain functionality could be abstracted completely away from the users. And that's how we get closer to the personal computer moment of Web3.
Delightful and excellent UX are things that aren't often used to describe the wallet experience. Charles, as CTO, you oversaw the product development and end-to-end shipment of Stacks, this highly anticipated new hardware wallet. I'm curious, what informed some of these very notable design decisions, like the almost Samsung phone-esque folding? Maybe you can even show how it works and talk us through, as CTO, why you made those decisions.
Yes, sure. So as I mentioned earlier today, Ledger never compromise with security. This is really the promise we are doing to our users, and this is what we are doing every day. Nonetheless, if the UX is difficult and is too complex for user, no one uses your security, and you don't solve any problem. So this is really what we try to do. Never compromise with security, but trying to improve the UX as much as we can. And this is what we did with Ledger Stack. So again, we are using the same type of architecture. We are using secure element, the smart card technology, the technology you find in your passport or in your banking card. The big difference in this case is that the secrets that are inside your secure element are not your state or your bank's secret. Those are your secrets. So this is really different, even if it's the same technology. Inside the secure element, there are your secret and a Ledger operating system that allows you to generate your secret, your keys, to derive your addresses, and also to sign transaction. So you need those 3 properties, so generating your secret in an enclave, having the cryptography inside the enclave, and the last one, which is even more important, as a user, you need to understand what kind of transaction you consent. And this is really why we have a secure display, a trusted display, that is directly connected to the secure element. And on this device, the display is an e-ink curved screen, so that we have a wider surface and a touch screen, so that you can understand what kind of transaction you are about to consent. At the beginning of Ledger, we were only securing Bitcoin. So when sending a Bitcoin transaction is pretty straightforward. So you have an address, a receiving address, and an amount and fees, and that's it. When you are interacting with AAVE, this is not the same thing. You have to explain to the users that he is about to to sign an approval, and then to sign a specific transaction that will do this, this, and that. And this is really why we need to provide the users with all the information so that he can consent what type of transaction he is doing. And for the design itself, we have worked with Tony Fadell, who is the inventor of the iPod,
Wow.
and he worked with us in order to make it like more desirable, I would say. So you can stack your different devices if you have like.
Here, can you pass it to me? I want to show everyone. These are magnetic, so they sort of click. There are 3 of these. But what I see right here is it's almost like the iPhone login. Is it meant to be, like, talk me through why?
It's your PIN, your PIN code, which is randomized. And you have 3 tries. If ever you are doing 3 incorrect input, your seed is wiped so that it's secure for your secrets.
And what are each of these 3 magnets,
So
wallets?
So you can stack your stacks. Okay. There's the name. And if you have like different use cases for different wallets and you want to segregate your assets, it's great. And on my side, I have several of them on my desk, and I always use them as a fidget. There was also this thing, which is quite fun.
It is.
And finally, you can put your own picture or your own NFT as a background. And as this is an e-ink display, it doesn't drain your battery, and like it's off, and you can see my picture.
Can you do my taxes? Can you do my taxes?
Your taxes, you mean?
Does it support cats NFTs on the display?
You can put any kind of JPEG. So if you have a JPEG of your cats, you can, yes.
What can developers now build on top of stacks that they couldn't before?
So all the application we used to support before, I think we are supporting 150 different blockchain and protocol. All of them are now compatible with it out of the box. So you have the same level of security, the same level of support, but a far better UX. And with this better UX, it opens plenty of new use cases. And I'm quite excited by all the use cases around self-sovereign identity. So we have developed an app which implements FIDO2, so you can have passkeys type of experience with your device to authenticate to your favorite website, to Twitter,
Very cool.
and so on. But also, yeah, I'm pretty excited by self-sovereign identity, which is a little bit more different, and with this wider screen, you can open like a new experience. And also we have NFC interface, so you can think of some tap and pay type of
Very
experience.
cool. As we're coming up on time, I'd love for each of you guys to share with us if your project is successful in these new pivots, these new directions, product launches, and endures for many more cycles to come. How will, I often talk about an 18-year-old girl in Ohio, someone who will be onboarded to the blockchain, how will this user talk about your company, your project, 10 years from now? What was the impact that it had on their lives?
I'd like this girl to say, like, Ledger is the brand I trust for my holding, and in the future, this is already the case today, but in the future it will be even more the case, like you will be able to own your value. And this is really the pivot that is brought by blockchain. And with Ledger, you can do it like securely and feel safe, which is really important.
Incredible.
I'm very intrigued by the question because my thesis is that technology at its best is becoming invisible, right? So very curious, how would you describe an invisible thing that you don't even need to think about? Like, do you think about what's the company that is providing the fiber channel under the ocean between the continents?
TCP/IP.
Or TCP/IP, yeah, exactly. So very, very intriguing and very challenging. However, I do believe that we're building perhaps a new generation or a new generation of internet or an internet of value where we own the assets, which will be in any case defining for our society or maybe for our interplanetary world that we're gonna live, right? So I would end up maybe from my point, if for example, money, if like the way I think in 10 to or 20 years at this space or at what we're building is, if one of the bets of Musk with the spaceships are maybe winning and we're gonna get there, and then we're gonna have a society on which we're gonna need to interact with each other, which is years away from the Earth, where actually if we are going to need to interact financially, the dollars are debt on Earth, right? So why would they accept dollars? If we go to gold, then why would they accept scarcity? If we go to information, then even crazier that we need to trust a message which is signed by only one single sender and is not proven or written in a specific ledger or an order of events which we're interacting at the cross-planetary species, right? So this is what we're building, and this is why we need a sharded system actually building the next generation of platforms.
And Stani, to round us out here, you know, a decade from now, how does someone talk about Avara?
I mean, that girl in Ohio example really depends if she's been in AAVE or not.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think you know, or has experienced really high yields. But I think we're still really, at least I think that even like AAVE, our first like product that we built, is still really far away, and I think it takes quite a lot of time. And I mean, things like the stacks and family wallet, all these interfaces, like they're the ones that actually then are that kind of like a layer for consumers. But also there's a lot of good initiatives, like Nagi from Shifa is doing an amazing job on educating a lot of women to get into the space. And I think like small initiatives like this will be really helpful while we're like pushing from like infrastructure to that experience layer. And down the line, like the more we actually, and it's up to you builders in the room and people who are in the space to actually build beyond like kind of like towards consumer as well. So it's also not up on us, but also up to you to get us faster there.
Amazing. Well, enormous respect from me to you three for what you've built over the last decade. We're out of time now, but you know, thank you for sharing your insights. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Stani, good job, buddy. Doing boss. Lucian. Mrs. Wu, Queen, thank you.